Welcome everyone here to the Smash Sports Show right here on Smash FM here on Thursday night here in Melbourne. Of course, let's talk a bit about cycling in particular with the Coburg Cycling Club. Of course, we've got the track coordinator joins right now. And of course, his name is Will. He joins us right now. Thanks, Will, for joining us.
Good to be here.
No worries. Well, obviously at the moment, obviously great news for cycling fans, especially involved in club level with the disc being reopened again with the restrictions easing. That must be really good news for the cycling side of things, especially there at Coburg to have at least have the indoor side of things reopen again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a start to get to some sort of normal kind of season. It's definitely been a bit quiet. Yeah, so they're doing training sessions there again, a few different groups. We're looking at continuing what we used to do there, which was a Sunday every few weeks. And yeah, it's sort of starting to feel like a normal sort of track environment again, which is a really nice feeling.
I guess last time I'm assuming everyone's got together would have been just before the lockdown back in March or February, March or so. I guess how frustrating is it to not have the normal routine in the last 3 months? So the last time we got together, I think it was a fortnight before our summer training was scheduled to finish anyway. And then we had I guess you'd say crisis meeting to establish our next step. And then that decision was taken out of our hands with the Victorian government pretty much cancelling all community sport and then professional sport indefinitely. But we've done all right. So we usually take a month off between summer and winter seasons anyway, just to refresh the coaches and things like that. And since that sort of month off, we've been doing our indoor training program on Zoom. So every Wednesday night, which is our traditional time slot at about 6:30, we all get together and we still actually get a ride in. And we actually noticed a benefit from that in that a lot of people who normally wouldn't attend a Wednesday night when they're held in Coburg because they may live rurally, they're actually attending and so they're part of the community now. So it's actually been really, really good. And so I guess in terms of negatives or impacts, we haven't noticed a huge amount since we started those Zoom workouts. It's been really good to get on the front foot and actually keep the community together. Now, obviously, when you do end up returning back to normal in regards to obviously going back to Coburg, I know that you just revamped your club rooms there at Coburg, which is fantastic. I've actually had a look at the photos that was taken for it, which is amazing. When people go back, are you still going to do what you usually do prior to the pandemic in Coburg, as well maybe doing some Zoom thing for the people that live in rural areas?
Yeah, so we had this chat last night with a few different stakeholders, I guess you'd call them, in these sessions. And we actually talked about COVID providing us with an opportunity. And that was something we probably should have done pre-COVID but never thought to do. And that is providing a multi training options for people that maybe can't make it. So yeah, that's definitely something we're looking at doing. We're looking at heading back to the rooms in July, depending on the announcements made on the 22nd of June by the Andrews government, and all going to plan. Continuing training face-to-face in July with social restrictions, distancing restrictions and hygiene practices in place, but also providing a Zoom session simultaneously. So I think COVID, in a way, I don't want to talk about such a horrible pandemic in a positive light too much, but it has provided us with an opportunity in this respect to engage more members.
I guess obviously the track season would have been, currently would have been at the moment, or I guess will be coming up very soon. I guess, what events that
that you would love to be doing right now that you've actually missed, the club's actually missed due to what's been going on?
Yeah, so the ACES track series, which is All Club Evening Series, it stands for. And that's a community track series encompassing all the major track clubs in Melbourne, and also in regional areas like Bendigo have quite a big track community. And that happened last winter, and it was a really, really well-run series where at the end of every month on a Saturday night, all these clubs would come together and you'd win points for your club, and it goes to season points. And it was a really, really fun, competitive, but also great community atmosphere. And we're desperately missing that. That would normally be running about now. And yeah, I mean, there's no sort of plan to get that back up and running at this time because for obvious reasons with COVID and the restrictions, and even though we're back at training, we still have to keep our distance, which means you can't have 20 riders on a track rubbing shoulders. But we're desperately missing that, and we're looking forward to hopefully having that back towards the latter part of this year.
I guess obviously doing a lot of Zoom sessions at the moment, how's everyone feeling about hopefully a possible return back to the track?
I think pretty good for most people. I think there's been a few people that actually the Zoom stuff's opened up a different sphere to their training, and they there's some people that have normally would turn up that are like, oh, I actually kind of like this now. it's maybe I'll just stay home and literally phone it in. But that's fine. That's part of the new landscape. But yeah, I think most people are pretty keen to get back into it, as long as it's all safe and everyone's welfare is the number one priority.
Now, obviously, with the track side of things, obviously with the training, most of it will be done indoor. As I mentioned a couple of questions ago, obviously, the club has just been revamped and obviously all done up really well. I guess how good is it to hopefully return back to new brand spanking new rooms again?
Mate, it is. Well, I mean, okay, so a bit of historical context on the rooms. We've been talking about these room renovations for almost as long as I've been a member of the club, which is going back almost a decade.
Yes.
And yeah, so to finally have it done, and then to have something like COVID sort of standing in the way of going and using the facilities, it's like stumbling at the final hurdle. But they're not going anywhere. They're pretty much done. I think we get the keys. Spoke to the club president, Paul Berry. We get the keys in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, it's super exciting. And I guess we'll just have to wait for that Christmas Day feeling for our new rooms for an extra couple of weeks. But that's okay. It's taken this long. I'm sure we can wait an extra few weeks for it.
Now, for you in particular, how did you get involved in cycling? Why did you choose it?
So my involvement in cycling, and more specifically the Coburg Cycling Club, I've always been a fan of the sport. I've loved it. I spent many winters freezing in the living room with my dad. Or my mum tells me I need to go to bed because I got school the next morning, and my dad argues with her that's the Tour de France, so I'm allowed to stay up late and watch it. School can wait. So yeah, I've been a fan for 20 years now. And I absolutely love it. So it was always a natural progression for me to then start riding and then racing, and now my racing days are done, transitioning into coaching. And yeah, and then specifically to Coburg, I wasn't actually a Coburg local when I joined Coburg, but I emailed a few clubs and I found Coburg. I'll give the club a bit of a plug here. I found Coburg to be the most welcoming and the best environment. I mean, absolutely no disrespect to other clubs in that, but when I emailed them, the then president, Abby, got back to me, and she was super welcoming, and there was the kind of environment I wanted to be around in community sport. So it's been a sort of match made in heaven. And without wanting to labour on with the answer too long, I even met my wife out of the Coburg Cycling Club. So it's been very good to me. It's been a great place.
Do you have any, obviously been the track coordinator there and obviously cycle yourself. I guess, what have you sort of learned from doing like technically two different roles or two different sides of the bike?
Yeah, right. So, well, riding's definitely still the most enjoyable part of the whole experience. We wouldn't do it if we didn't love pedaling. So riding's sort of really liberating and freeing, whereas the coordinator role, I don't want to speak too disrespectfully to it, but it is a lot more administrative side. It is a lot more. It can be a bit like pulling teeth at times to get things organised. But to be honest, the reward you get from organising a successful event, seeing people coming together from all different clubs, things like that, that reward is better than any feeling I've ever had on a bike, to be honest. I mean, I love being more a part of the community than just a cyclist. I love being a part of a cog in the wheel that makes up such an awesome community sport and club.
Any highlights throughout your cycling journey so far?
Look, I would love to tell you that I've, won national titles and things like that, but no, not in terms of my own racing. I was a rank amateur at best. But I've coached a couple of national champions, which has been really, really rewarding. And I've been involved in a lot of junior development programs where we've seen kids come in who could barely ride a bike, let alone a track bike, which is a specific type of bike, to then going into racing and winning state titles and things like that. So being a part of that pathway from being a 10-year-old kid through to like a 15, 16-year-old kid and achieving some sort of success, as well as watching that person develop and feel like I've been a part of that development off the bike as well as on the bike. That's a really great feeling. So that's the highlight for me, is probably the coaching side, I think.
Yeah. And what does the sport of cycling mean to you now, especially being there at the Coburg Cycling Club?
It sounds cliche, but it's my life. I absolutely love it. I'm a cycling coach. That's my profession. I work with a business called Kilowatt Cycle Coaching, as well as being a coach at the Coburg Cycling Club. So it is my whole world, really. I mean, I don't want to pigeonhole myself or be too singular in that, but it's my passion. It's, not a day goes by where I'm not in some way involved in the sport of cycling, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It is, it's my absolute everything, except for my wife and kid, obviously. Got to give them a shout out.
Now, I guess for anyone that should get involved in cycling, especially the Coburg Cycling Club, once obviously everything goes back to normal, what would be your advice to our listeners or viewers out there that should get involved in cycling?
Great. So the first thing to do would be to contact the cycling club, whether it's be via social media or via email. We're pretty responsive. We have a really awesome secretary, Tam, who's really quick to get back to you and let you know your options. And obviously with COVID, we don't have any face-to-face stuff yet, but we're hoping in July to start that up. So the next obvious thing to do would be to come along to a Wednesday night session at 6:30 p.m. and then you can have a chat to myself. I'll be there, or the president, who regularly attends those things, and we can sort of let you know how to get involved. Also, if you just can't wait, you need to do it now. We do have our Zoom sessions on a Wednesday night, and the meeting ID for that is posted on our social media, so Instagram and Facebook. And so if you want to just grab a bike, set yourself up on a trainer or some rollers and join into that, everyone's welcome. Doesn't matter if you don't know any of us. I promise you, we're all really nice people. I like to think we're all really nice people. We'll make you feel pretty welcome, I reckon.
Now, the one thing about, obviously I have been to Coburg's venue up there in Coburg North. Now, Your velodrome there at Coburg is probably one of the steepest ones I've ever seen, but I believe your the velodrome is very similar to the disc velodrome indoors. I guess how much of the advantage is that?
Oh, look, it definitely helps in terms of the handling the bike around the corners. Because if you've sort of only ever ridden the flat-ish velodrome and then you go to disc, it can feel like a bit of a foreign experience. But you also, because it's in Coburg North, get this monster northerly at times, and because of the nature of the area, it's almost like doing strength efforts for half a lap. So it's a pro and a con having a track in that location and a track of those dimensions. But yeah, it's and I'm sure the Super Club historians will be able to correct me on this, but I believe that when disc was made, they used Coburg as a template essentially. Disc is slightly steeper, but very similar dimensions. Yeah.
I guess obviously it's concrete there at the Coburg's Velodrome. I guess when you ride on it, do you ever, get scared of the heights, go around the bend and fearing of falling over and obviously hurting yourselves on the concrete pavement?
Look, it's been so long since I started riding track that I can't remember ever being scared. I'm sure I was when I first did it. I know a lot of people are when they first do it, but you sort of don't notice it after a while. It sort of feels like you're still going on a straight or on a completely level surface as opposed to a 38-degree bank, which is what they are at Coburg. An incentive to go fast, because the faster you go, the more you grip the track and the less likely you are to fall off. So there's a good little training tip right there. Ride fast, you'll be okay.
I'll remember that for next time. Now, I guess might as well finish off with a couple of light-hearted questions about obviously the cyclists that you coached there at Coburg. I guess for you, any embarrassing moments that you've done yourself on the bike or you've seen from other people?
I've had a few close calls with embarrassing moments. I had one at our Christmas party where every year we do it's called a motor pace. You ride behind a motorcycle and you take turns riding behind a motorcycle. And over Christmas, the motorcycle will have a little basket on the back full of chocolates or presents. And so you ride on alongside the bike and you grab a present. This year, I got a T-shirt out of there and I was sort of celebrating my bounty. And I dropped the T-shirt and it got caught between my front wheel and the fork of the bike. It's basically acting as a rapid brake. This also coincided with riding around the 38-degree bank. And so what happened was it locked up my front wheel. I thought I was going to go over the handlebars and break my fall with my face, shall we say. But somehow I stayed upright and the shirt just passed through the fork and ended up on the ground. And I don't know how I pulled that off, but I'll take full credit for it. We'll call it bike handling. So that was a very close call. That would have ruined the Christmas party for sure. So I've been pretty lucky. That was the closest call I had to embarrassment. In terms of athletes I coach, look, they're all pretty great. It's probably not embarrassing, but Phil Petrushka, who I know will be listening to this, if you ever want to see that guy show any sort of emotion, he's a very wooden character. Play Genuine Pony, and you'll see some pretty horrendous dance moves.
Well, I think you've answered my next question about who's the best dancer there. So I'll move on to the next one, which is any comedians or singers there at Coburg?
Singers. Look, we got a lot of singers, probably not a lot of good ones. Myself, probably the worst of that. I'm always humming a tune and terribly. In terms of comedians, I actually think our former president, Sam Gabert, was hilarious. He has a real dry sense of humour. But our committee meetings would quite often be scheduled for an hour and last 2 because you just couldn't shut him up when he got rolling. Yeah, he's a pretty funny cat. So yeah, I reckon if you ever get a chance to chat to Sam, I know he's not president anymore, but he'll be around. just give him a minute because he has a straight face when he says everything, but you get a little twinkle in his eye and he's absolutely winding you up beautifully.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been involved about a couple of those. So, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And, of course, I've got to finish on this one last one. Now, obviously, you mentioned about a couple of cyclists that you coach as well. Tell us a bit about those ones, and is there any of them that maybe we should watch out for in the future?
Sure. So there's a former athlete that I worked with called Tobias Mazzella, I believe his last name is. I'm terrible at names, so I apologise to you, Tobias, and your family if I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, I worked with him for a little while. He was riding with Coburg for a little while. He's now a part of the junior Victorian team and doing really well. I think he's 16. He might be 17 this year. He's someone to watch out for. There's a couple other kids, a bloke named Dylan at the club. He's sort of had a growth spurt last year and went from, pretty good bike rider, but not being able to, go faster than the speed of sound. Whereas now, when he gets going, that kid's lethal. And then there's always the classics like Vanessa Goss in the Masters category, and Anna Davis as well, and they just don't know how to lose. And they're such nice people as well. They're so humble about it. But every single year, Ness goes to the national championships and comes back with more bling than she knows what to do with. So definitely some names to both watch out for and be aware.
But obviously, Will, thank you so much for giving up your time to join us. It's awesome having you on the show, and let's hope once also restrictions ease a bit more, also won't know until another 2 more weeks' time, that hopefully we can all go back to normal, and especially to see your members going back to the Coburg Cycling Club and obviously be in that amazing club rooms, and hopefully get back to track and road season in hopefully a little bit later on in the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to talk about where we are with COVID. Good to get the word out. And for everyone who wants to get involved or who is involved, just stay all over our social media or our club newsletter for updates on the next step, because we're pretty eager to have everyone back.
Well, that's Will there from the Coburg Cycling Club. Of course, make sure, as you mentioned, you want to get involved. Of course, you can contact them on their social media page, as well as, of course, you can go to the website as well for all the details. Of course, one that I would highly recommend, of course, get involved there at the Coburg Cycling Club. There's more on the Smash Sport show right after this. Don't